have a simple counter right now that it's always the same value, 20, right, for the initial state. So what we'd like to be able to do is plug in these plus and minus, right, so that we can generate a new state every time we click on these, right? So let's do that next. Let's see. So here we have we have a counter, right? And what we would like to be able to do is as we click on this, if we click on this particular button, we would like to dispatch an action, right, to increment the counter. If we click on the other one, we want to dispatch a different action, right, and to decrement the counter. So let's do that. This is going to be a function that's going to take as argument an event, and it's going to return. The thing to return here is to return just a dispatcher, right? It's just going to generate a dispatcher. So we'll say dispatch, an action whose type, unique identifier, is to increment. And it grabs the dispatch from here. The dispatch is being fed by the connect. When you connect, right, it passes as argument any mapped properties like value, right? That's a map. Plus, if you ask for it, it also passes a dispatch function, so that it can generate events outside of the component. Okay. All right. So let's see. So this is going to be dispatched to the reducer that it's connected to. Notice that the counter, right? The counter is connected, right, to the count reducer. So over here, it's going to receive an action. All right, so those are the two arguments that a reducer takes, right? The previous state and an action that is being dispatched. Right? And then you have logic in here to decide what to do with that action, what to do with that previous state. Right? Basically, what I'd like to be able to do is generate a new state, which is going to have the new value be equal to whatever the value used to be plus 1. All right. So let's do that. So notice that now we're not going to return the always the same state. Instead, we're going to look at the previous state, which is going to be passed in in our state, right? And we want to increment it. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to initialize the state. We're going to say state is by default the initial state. Okay. And we're going to say, well, depending on what the type of the action is, so switch on the action type. So if it's the case that the action is increment, right, literally the little string that we're passing, if it's that case, then what we'd like to be able to do is return, right, a new object that will represent the new state. It'll have whatever the value, right? So we're going to set the value of that state to whatever the old value was. So it's the state.value. So notice that the value is already in the previous state because we put it there, right? The initial state already has a value of 20. So whatever it was plus, right? We're going to increment it. Right? So whatever that is, it's being copied over to the value, and that's it. Right? And by default, if it's none of the above, we're just going to return the old state. So by default, we just return the old state, which in this case is the initial state of value equal 20. Right? We will in a minute. Yes, let's do increment first, right? And then we'll practice it again with decrement. All right, let's see. Did I miss something? Let's see, dispatch. We did a dispatch type increment, and being passed into increment. Click. Is this being sent? Let's see if this gets called at all. Let's alert increment. It's not, oh, okay, so it is being sent over. Value. Oh, maybe I need to increment it before, or just plus 1, maybe. Okay, it's being incremented. I guess it was being copied, and then I was incrementing it, right? So maybe that's what is happening. All right, so we don't need that alert. We don't need that alert. And so we want to do the same thing with decrement, right? We can create another event handler here with a button. So let's just copy this, and this will be minus. This will be decrement, and the counter, the reducer will be that if it's decrement, then it'll be -1. All right, so let's see, -1 works and +1 works, and that's it, right? That's all there is to React Redux, right? There's nothing really, anything more, right? Everything that goes after this initial part of plumbing everything together, right, are a whole bunch of best practices, right? How to break this up into smaller pieces so that it becomes a reusable, right? So let's just practice that so that we know how to break it up, especially when if it's trivial examples like this, you would not break it up, right? It's small enough to understand it in a single page. But when you're talking about multiple components that are nested inside of other components and they're iterating over each other and you have all these different multiple actions happening, then it becomes hard to follow, right? And then you want to break it up so that you can work independently. So let's do that next.